Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Urvashi and today in this video I'm going to be talking about the 3 eclipses that we're going to be experiencing starting tomorrow. So tomorrow is the first lunar eclipse which is happening in the sign of Scorpio, and Venus is going to be a part of this eclipse. This is happening on the 21st degree of the sign of Scorpio, and it's a penumbral eclipse. A penumbral eclipse is where the moon is in the shadow of the earth, but it is not in the main shadow of the earth, it is in the outer shadow of the earth. So it's slightly better than having a umbral eclipse. It's much better than that. So it's on the outer shadow of the earth. The second eclipse that we're going to be having is on the 21st of June. That is a solar eclipse that's going to be in Gemini, and that is at 6 degrees of Gemini. And in that eclipse, Mercury is going to be with the sun. So now Mercury is going to be involved there. And the third eclipse is on the 5th of July. This third eclipse is happening in the sign of Sagittarius, 19th degree of Sagittarius, and both Mercury and Jupiter are going to be part of that eclipse, the third eclipse, the lunar eclipse that we're going to have on the 5th of July. So both Jupiter and Mercury will be involved. So we got to keep all this in mind, that in the first eclipse Venus saw signs of Taurus and Gemini, and as it is, the eclipse is happening in Scorpio, so the sign of Taurus is also strongly being impacted here because the Lord is a part of the eclipse. The second eclipse, Mercury, so signs of and it is happening, the second eclipse is happening in Sagittarius, but again Gemini and Virgo. And the third eclipse, because Jupiter and Mercury both will be a part of that eclipse, so it is happening in Sagittarius. The third eclipse, the lunar eclipse on the 5th of July, will happen in Sagittarius, but because Mercury and Jupiter are both involved, so Pisces, Virgo and Gemini. So these zodiacs, these signs will be more affected or more activated. And especially the solar eclipse, the one that we're having on the 21st, because the sun represents our health. So people who are of Gemini ascendant people or Virgo ascendant people, or since it's happening in the sign of Gemini here, Sagittarius Gemini axis, so if you have important planets that represent your health, if you have your ascendant Lord or your ascendant posited, or the sun, because sun signifies health, in these zodiacs, then you got to be a little more cautious about your health. The lunar eclipse, moon is, it represents our mind. Moon represents our happiness and our home, the females in our lives. Similarly, the sun represents all the men, the male folk in our life. Lunar eclipses tend to impact our emotions more, whereas solar eclipses tend to affect our life path in a major way. So here, back to back 3 eclipses showing both the things, showing some changes in life path, some changes in our emotions, all happening. And because Venus and Mercury are both going to be a part of these eclipses, Venus and Mercury are both Rajas planets, and this does show finances, wealth, relationships, communication. And then Jupiter is a part of the last eclipse that is happening on the 5th of July. So Jupiter is wisdom, knowledge, and Mercury is also there, a part of that eclipse, so communication. So there could be major issues related to communication, knowledge, wisdom, not doing what is expected from us, because Jupiter is wisdom, so not being very wise, communication being used wrongly. These are some of the repercussions of these planets that are being involved in these eclipses. So we got to be a little alert about that. Like I said, lunar eclipses are more about emotions, solar are both more about life path, but I've seen lunar eclipses too, especially if they have anything to do with your ascendant or moon sign. They can impact your finances, from where your wealth comes, how you sustain yourself, because moon also exalts in the sign of Taurus, and Venus is also a part of this first eclipse. So the sign of Taurus is very strongly connected to this eclipse, because even though this eclipse is happening in Scorpio, Sun and Venus will be in Taurus, and Venus is going to be combust, and Taurus is the natural house of sustenance, of wealth. So finances, wealth, relationships, and the last eclipse suggests knowledge, wisdom, and communication. These are few key areas that may be impacted. And usually eclipses bring a lot of transformation, a lot of changes in our life, and sometimes unexpected things happen, things that you've been thinking of doing and you've been procrastinating, and suddenly events will come about that you will have to do those things right away. So it's like whatever you've been thinking of doing and you've not really gotten down to doing, that there could be a sudden push. Some certain events could be negative events initially, because the lunar eclipses do show certain emotional turmoil, and then the solar eclipses certain life path changing. So certain events could help us go on to a path that we should be going on to. Sometimes eclipses, especially if they're in the ascendant of the 7th house, the 1-7 axis, I've seen they tend to change our entire lives, and they put us completely on a different path. So and these will be these are some of the last eclipses that we'd be seeing in the signs of Sagittarius and Gemini, because after September then Rahu Ketu are moving on to the next axis, and so it's an important time for change, especially for Sagittarius and Gemini people. So major changes could come about in your life, and if you have important planets around these degrees that I've mentioned, they could be triggered as well. What is important is we stay low during the time of eclipses. It's a very disturbed energy, and what is important is that we don't do something new, we don't start something new. Events will just unfurl in front of you. It will just happen in a way where you would be pushed towards a certain path over a period of time. But it makes a lot of sense if we do not initiate something right now, because the energy is quite disturbed. So this does show triggering of events. This does show major transformations, both emotional and both on our life path, health, especially solar eclipses, and especially in the zodiacs that I mentioned. You guys need to be extra cautious about your health. The remedy for solar eclipses is worshipping Lord Shiva. So this is a very spiritual energy. Eclipses, it's a great time to chant mantras. It's a great time to connect with your spiritual self, but it's not that good a time to start something new, to initiate, to start a journey, to do something new. So continuing doing whatever you're doing, but being vigilant, being aware of what is happening around you, what is nature telling you, what kind of events happen in your life, and what is life hinting to you. If you're being pushed towards a certain path, then that could be the right path for you. So when eclipses happen, you are sometimes pushed towards a path that you've been avoiding, or you've been hesitating to do some things, and you push towards that thing. So it turns out usually to be the right thing to do. So it's like a hastening of events, and but on our own, initiating something, wanting to do something during such unsettled energies is not suggested, is not recommended. So now I'm going to be talking about all the zodiacs, and I'm going to be touching the zodiac signs that are impacted for you, and just to give you a brief idea. So for like Aries, the solar eclipse is happening in Gemini, which is your 3rd house, and the lunar eclipses, both the eclipses happening in your 8th house and your 9th house. The 8th house is transformation and major changes. This could be also related to finances, because Venus is a part of this eclipse, and Venus is going to be combust in your 2nd house. So you got to be careful about your finances. The 9th house of father, the 3rd house of communication, and both the houses 3rd and 9th are journeys, short journeys, long journeys. So I would suggest don't take any journeys right now. Don't initiate something new. This is also the axis of opportunity and initiative. So on your own, don't start anything new, but there could be a push in your life somehow that pushes you towards something new. So for Aries, you got to be alert on not initiating, or not trying to grab an opportunity at this time, and there could be major transformation in your life. For Taurus, the first eclipse is happening in your 7th house. The second lunar eclipse will be in your 8th house, and your solar eclipse is happening in your 2nd house. So again, this is the 2nd and the 8th house, again connected to wealth, relationships, growth of relationships. Your 7th house is again your partnerships and your marriage and all kinds of relationships. So Taurus people, you got to be extra careful, especially where your relationship, your family, your wealth, your communication is concerned. So there could be some disturbance, some changes in that area. And because Venus is also involved in the first eclipse, again your health you got to be a little cautious about. I'm going to be talking about Gemini. For Gemini, the first eclipse is happening in your 6th house. The second eclipse, the solar eclipse, is happening in your ascendant, and the third eclipse is happening in the 7th house. So this is the first house. First house, the solar eclipse. Here I would say Gemini people got to be very careful about their health, because Mercury, the ascendant lord, also is going to be involved in that eclipse. And this is the solar eclipse. And in Sagittarius we're having the third eclipse. Again, this is the 7th house. Again, Mercury is going to be a part of that eclipse, and so is Jupiter going to be a part of the third eclipse. So the first 7 axes is very, very, there's a lot of energy there, disturbed energy. It's not a very settled energy. Don't start anything new. Don't get into any new relationships, new partnerships. There could be a lot of change related to relationships and partnerships. Sudden events would come about that would unfold in such a way that your relationships may change. This could also be about your health, because Mercury, the ascendant lord, is involved, the 6th house is involved, the first house is involved. So this could be about your health, healing, conflict, service, relationships, business partnerships. So now I'm going to be talking about Cancer. Cancer, the first eclipse tomorrow is happening in your 5th house. The second eclipse, the solar eclipse, is happening in your 12th house. And the third eclipse of Sagittarius on the 5th of July is happening in your 6th house. And so for Cancer, this is the 12th house, the 5th house, the 6th house. The solar eclipse is in the 12th house. The 12th house does signify, hospitals and healing and all. And the 6th house is also activated. So for Cancer people, again, I would say, do take care of your health. Be very cautious about your health. This could also be like a going away. This could be also like a lot of energy that you've been spending somewhere, and a lot of wastage, a lot of expenditure, or starting something new, some new endeavor. Because the 5th house, there's an eclipse in the 5th house. This could show a lot of creativity, enhanced creativity, boost in creativity, change in creativity, some changes related to children, relationships, love affairs. 6th house is again health, conflict, service, jobs. So there could be sudden changes related to all that. But the eclipse happening in the 12th house, the solar eclipse, does suggest that go slow, do take care of your health. So that is one thing I would like to suggest to Cancer people. And changes could come about where your daily routine is concerned and where your creativity is concerned. And especially it could be an emotional time with your children. So now I'm going to be talking about Leo. So for Leo, the first eclipse tomorrow is happening in your 4th house. The second eclipse, which is happening in the sign of Gemini, the solar eclipse, is happening in your 11th house. And the third eclipse, in the sign of Sagittarius, is happening in your 5th house. So the 4th house, the 5th house, both the lunar eclipses are in the 4th and the 5th house. So this is definitely emotions and happiness, your family, your home, your mother, your children. Some emotional trigger there, something related to, it could also be related to property, real estate. And this definitely will have something to do with wealth, because your 11th lord and your second lord, Mercury, is going to be involved in both the second eclipse, the solar eclipse, as well as the final eclipse in July. And so some emotional changes related to relationships of these two houses, the 4th and the 5th house, and could be related to creativity, could be related to your profession, because the 11th house of long-term ambitions is also there. So definitely certain changes can be seen for Leo. And in your network circles, because the solar eclipse is happening in your network circle, so any major connections related to your network circle and your life path could be there. So now I'm going to be talking about Virgo. So for Virgo, the first eclipse that is happening tomorrow is happening in the 3rd house, and the second eclipse is happening in your 10th house. The solar eclipse is happening in the 10th house. So an eclipse happening in the 10th house, and dependent on what the ascendant degree is. So if your ascendant is anywhere between the 6 degrees, so that this could if your ascendant is around the sixth degree of Virgo, because this eclipse is happening on the 6th degree of Gemini. So if your ascendant is anywhere near that degree, then you may feel it strongly in your career because of that solar eclipse happening in the 10th house. And then we are having that second eclipse, the second lunar eclipse happening in your 4th house. So this is the 3rd house, the 4th house, and the 10th house. So definitely changes related to career, home, an emotional, some emotional connect with home, with mother, with real estate, with siblings. Could be there some changes that could emotionally disturb you, in the next few months. And some career changes can also be expected, like especially I said if you have your ascendant anywhere near 6 degrees, because this would be happening exactly at that same degree in your 10th house. So you may feel some major changes that related to your career. Also because your ascendant lord Mercury is also involved in 2 of these eclipses, and your second lord Venus is also involved in the first eclipse that is happening in the 3rd house. So it also does show a lot of expenditure during this point of time. Now I'm going to be talking about Libra. So for Libra, the first eclipse is in your 2nd house, the second eclipse is in your 9th house, and the 3rd eclipse is the final lunar eclipse is in your 3rd house. So the 3rd, the 9th, and the 2nd house. The solar eclipse is in the 9th house. Major career paths can change for you. The 9th house having a solar eclipse there, and also having Mercury, the 9th lord, a part of this eclipse. So major, it could be a path breaking time for Libra people. So major changes related to the 9th house, opportunities related to any advice you get from a guru, a teacher, a father figure, a boss, somebody who guides you in a certain way, some paperwork, some documentation, something related to documentation, something related to travel, because the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 9th house. So something related to travel, documentation, paperwork, wealth, because the ascendant lord is also involved. So I would also say health. So Libra people got to keep all this in mind. Don't venture into any travel. Don't start something new at this time, and do take advice very, very seriously, because the 3rd eclipse, which is happening in the 3rd house, which is of advice, which in 9th house is the guru and the 3rd house is advice. So and you having Jupiter there, a part of this eclipse, shows that you may not heed to advice. So Libra people got to be extra careful about all this. Do also take care of your health as well. Now I'm going to be talking about Scorpio. Scorpio, the first eclipse tomorrow is in the ascendant. The second eclipse is in the 8th house, and the 3rd eclipse is in the 2nd house. So the 2nd and the 8th axis are both activated. One is a solar eclipse, the other is a lunar eclipse, and one is in the ascendant. So major transformations, major changes which could involve your health, because this is in the ascendant. Secondly, this is the 8th house, and could be major transformations in the family relationships, family matters, in inheritances and investments. Major changes related to that. You got to be alert. Don't make any investments at this point of time, but there could be certain unexpected news related to previously made investments. So you got to be a little alert about where you're putting your money now. So about your finances, you got to be very alert. Now I'm going to be talking about Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, the first eclipse is in your 12th house. The second eclipse is in your 7th house. The 3rd is in the ascendant. The 2nd is a solar eclipse in the 7th house. So if you're into a business, you could expect major changes there. Major changes related to relationships. The first 7 axes both are having eclipses. Relationships, how people see you, how you interact with people, business partners, otherwise generally all kinds of relationships, and expenditure, how you spend, how much you spend, where you're spending your energy as well, because the 3rd eclipse also has the ascendant lord Jupiter a part of it. So where you're spending your energy, your health, you got to be a little more cautious, because Jupiter, the ascendant lord, is involved in the third eclipse which is happening in your ascendant. So the ascendant lord are both a part of this eclipse, and so this, you got to be cautious about your relationships, expenditure, and this could also be a time of slowing down. I think you need to meditate a little bit. Both Gemini and Sagittarius people need to meditate and spend some time by themselves, involved in some spiritual routine. Then I'm going to be talking about Capricorn. So for Capricorn, the first eclipse tomorrow is happening in your 11th house, the second is in your 6th house, and the third is in the 12th house. So the 12th and the 6th axis and the 11th house. So major changes, this could be related to your daily routine, any conflict, any litigation that you're having, that you can experience, because the 6th house, we are having a solar eclipse, and Mercury is also going to be a part of that eclipse. So any conflict, litigation, there could be certain transformations regarding that. Also your health, you got to be careful about, because the 6th and the 12th axis both are having eclipses. There could be changes, there could be healing, if you've been working on something, if you've been taking some kind of medical help for some problem, there could be healing now. And since the 11th house also is having an eclipse, the first is in the 11th house, and this is a lunar eclipse, so there could be some going away of somebody from your network circle, or you giving up on certain dreams for certain reasons, certain things happening that makes you change your dreams. There could be certain transformation in that area. Then I'll talk about Aquarius. For Aquarius, the first eclipse is happening in your 10th house. So this is a lunar eclipse. The second eclipse is happening, the solar eclipse is happening in your 5th house, and the third eclipse, the third lunar eclipse, is happening in your 11th house. So this is the 5-11 axis in the 10th house. So like I said, if your ascendant is around 21 degrees, because the eclipse happening, the lunar eclipse is happening in your 10th house at 21 degrees. If you have important planets, if you have your ascendant on 21 degrees, then there could be major changes related to your career. And this is about your ambition, your creativity, your children, your network circle, your elder siblings, how you present yourself, your presentations. This could be a time of growth as well. And so it's more about career, it's more about career, it's more about network circle, children. This could be love relationships, because the second eclipse that you're having, the solar eclipse, is happening in your 5th house. So this could be a life path changing. People who've been wanting to get into a relationship could, you could be meeting somebody at this point of time. So then I'm going to be talking about Pisces. So for Pisces, the first eclipse is happening in your 9th house. The second eclipse is happening in your 4th house, and the third eclipse is happening in your 10th house. So 4th and 10th axis, you're having one solar eclipse, one lunar eclipse, and one is in your 9th house. So again, this is related to some life path, major life path change, because the second eclipse is in the 4th house. So this could be related to real estate, property, home, moving away, your mother. Because the 4th lord Mercury is also part of these eclipses, 2 of these eclipses. So there could be changes related to home, to career, to movement, to travel, to new opportunities, to advice, because the first eclipse is in the 9th house of advice, of guru, of teachers, higher knowledge and higher wisdom. So, and Jupiter is going to be a part of the third eclipse, and it is the ascendant lord, so your health as well. So this, I would not say you move away from home right now, but there is a strong indication of some kind of travel, some kind of relocation, something that will come up unexpectedly, some kind of change in career. So around the degrees that eclipses are happening, so the eclipse that is happening in your 10th house, the second lunar eclipse that is happening in on the 5th of July is on the 19th degree. So if your ascendant is on the 19th degree, then you will feel major changes in your career. So this could be career, this could be home, this could be mother, this could be your boss, this could be opportunities, this could be advice, this could be higher learning and higher knowledge, and your health, because Jupiter is a part of these eclipses, a part of the third the final eclipse that is happening in Sagittarius, which is your 10th house. So that is all for now. We'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.